People of color get punished for wearing their hair how they want. Hey, it's Prince of Queens, and I have yet to make an entire video about my annoyances with the cultural appropriation narrative, and I probably will eventually, so stay tuned for that. However, the point I want to focus on today is simply the hairstyle thing, which is not entirely the most ridiculous complaint coming from the appropriation police, because they do try to ban white people from using black slang, which is even more trivial. But attempting to tell people how to style their hair is pretty outlandishly psycho as well. I mean, I just want you to think for a moment. When somebody was 15 years old and first started experimenting with hairstyles in fun ways, dyeing, braiding, maybe even going so far as to try some dreads. When you were first 15 and you styled your hair with your friends, did you ever stop to think, when I'm in my 20s and 30s, I am going to start telling people that they're racist for doing this? Did you ever think that to yourself? Did it ever occur to you when you were braiding your friend's hair at a sleepover, maybe even having a black friend do box braids or cornrows on a white girl, did it ever occur to you that this social activity that is completely harmless in every way would eventually be accused of being racist someday? Seriously, remembering how innocently hairstyling starts, how can people possibly justify thinking to themselves that it's cool to get mad at people over hairstyles? Well, it's not just a hairstyle. Dreadlocks and cornrows have a long history within black culture, and white people have a long history of stealing pieces of black culture and then claiming all the credit for it. Calm down, Chuck Berry. We're not talking about things that you can copyright or patent. We're talking about hairstyles. Something that a 15-year-old girl can literally look at and decide she wants to try out for herself. She might even pay a black woman to style her hair that way for her. Do you want that woman not to get paid? Still, the argument persists, and this is where it becomes one of those things that has actually been said so many times that it is treated as some sort of factual logic, seemingly simply by virtue of repetition of the statement being said so many times. However, I question whether it's even really true at all. The line goes like this. When white people wear black hairstyles, they are celebrated as fashionable and innovative. But when people of color just style their hair how they want, they are often persecuted or even fired from their jobs. That's not true. That's just not true. Give me a fucking break. White people, you're saying, can go ahead and have dreads at office jobs, but black people can't? What the actual fuck are you talking about? When does this happen? I have heard maybe a few stories on blogs over the past couple of years where some black woman was told that she couldn't have dreadlocks at work, but it's fucking work. Who the hell actually believes that the same company that doesn't allow black people to have dreads would be fine with a white person with dreads? That's the stupidest fucking argument I've ever goddamn heard. I'm sorry, but in the current year, unless a black person has a fucking jerry curl or something, seemingly every black hairstyle is not just accepted by the mainstream, but it's often celebrated. Has nobody ever heard of the natural hair movement? Has anybody seen pictures of black students at universities recently? Over the past 5 years, since Black Lives Matter has been a major cultural staple in America, can anybody possibly imagine the vast majority of American managers telling a black employee that they can't have well-maintained dreadlocks? I see black people with dreads all the time. These people probably mostly have jobs, right? If anything, the reverse of this argument is actually what is really true. Black people generally don't get punished for having black hairstyles. White people certainly do, though. If you Google Miley Cyrus dreads, or Justin Bieber dreads, or Kylie Jenner dreads, you won't find a list of articles from fashion magazines praising these hairstyles as groundbreaking or whatever. You'll find endless fucking social justice articles complaining about appropriation. People have said that the purpose of propaganda is not to convince the audience of anything in particular, but rather to humiliate and demoralize. When people are told obvious lies, like the notion that white people are supposedly celebrated for having black hairstyles in the age of social justice, and people pretend to agree with it and even repeat the argument, it is deeply humiliating for the person repeating it because deep down, we all know that this is bullshit. The only reason people repeat this lie is because they are afraid that if they don't, they will be considered racist. Therefore, when people give up and claim that they truly believe white people are celebrated for having black hairstyles, but black people are punished, if a person says that, they have already shown you that their spirit and independent mind has been conquered. They no longer can say what they truly think, and a lot of people don't want them to. Nobody in pop culture likes a white person with dreads. People fucking hate it. They don't just fucking hate it, they are goddamn obsessed with hating it. They'll call a non-black person with dreads a goddamn racist, especially if they are white. How did we get to this point in culture? Oh yeah, it was because too many people let the propaganda get to them and repeated the obvious lie, and it fueled racial tensions. No, this is not my white fragility talking. If you think that, that's your own goddamn fragility. Do you really think that you get to go around telling people how to style their hair? You couldn't pay me to give a shit about policing people's hairstyles, and I mean that very literally. I would never write an article telling people what are acceptable ways to style their hair. I'd rather move to North Korea. That's all I have to say for today. Drop me a comment, help me out on Patreon if you think I seem cool, and stay tuned.